Don, can you hear me? I don't see the mic.
Where's the mic? Where's the mic?
Really?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Oh, it's not on. Never mind.
Do you actually have a problem here?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, this is good. Let me start with my agenda for the day. So this was my plan. First, I was going to introduce myself and kind of let you know about my journey until now, that got me to the point to deliver this workshop. Then I was going to present to you the projects I run on this side, which is called the National Entrepreneurial Camp. Then I was going to start poking holes in my own project and exposing some of the issues that we run into earlier this year. Then we were going to have then for these issues, I kind of wanted to present to you a framework through which I'm processing these issues, which is the theory of change framework. And then I was planning for an exercise where you're going to get to be my consultants and help me kind of solve these issues that I'm going to present to you. After that, I'm going to show you what answers we came up with for the issues, and then we can just have a Q&A session. So does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So before I introduce myself, actually, since we're a small crowd, we can go ahead and introduce each other. So maybe start from Don.
Sure.
Name your affiliation, maybe.
Great. So Don Schellerin, I work at the Center for Internships and Careers.
Caroline Tobin, I'm at 10.5.
Luke, I'm a senior at the local high school.
Evangeline, sophomore, sociology major.
Yeah, I'm sophomore psych major.
Carol Calhoun, I live here, and I have the great good fortune of taking a lot of advantage of the college. It's been wonderful.
But as a student, also I'm also studying in Southern Massachusetts. Yeah, I joined journalism at Southern New Hampshire University and also as well as an
I'm Christopher Watson, and one of us studying at New Middlebury School of Education as a freshman.
Simon Tanzer, I'm not full-time student and also a student.
I'm Zafar Arzaba. I'm a solo alumni. I'm also a junior at St. George's.
Hi, Margila, junior, environmental studies major.
Hi, I'm Ala, I'm a freshman undergrad.
Shukriya from Afghanistan, one of solo alumni, and currently studying at Southern New Hampshire University.
Mariah, sophomore Feb, and studying psychology.
Nika Khan. I'm blanking out. Wait, I'm a junior. Yay! And I do environmental studies.
My name is Rabia. I'm a sophomore at Middlebury College, and I'm a history and economics double major.
Thank you. Actually, you're familiar with SOLA. We heard a lot of SOLA here. So that's School of Leadership Afghanistan. That was started by our very own Shabana. So she attended the talk yesterday. We don't know about it. My name is Jihad Hajjouji. I am a senior at Middlebury College. I am international politics and economics major. But before that, I am a Moroccan. I grew up in a small town south of Morocco called Tilma. It's very far from all the cities you hear of in Morocco, Casablanca, Marrakesh, all of that. I'm far from that. That's like a postcard of my town. I grew up there, and my family still lives there. And I went to public school there until I was until 16 or 17. This period of my life is pretty typical for a Moroccan student. I went to public school, and something that Shabana, I don't know if you attended the talk yesterday, she started talking about the public school system in Afghanistan, and the education in Afghanistan, and how it was not stimulating and not challenging, and it didn't really kind of bring up the critical thinking she wanted to bring up in her. That resonated a lot with me, and I think it resonates with a lot of people around the world when we talk about public education system. So that was pretty much my experience going to public school in Morocco, in my town. However, I was fortunate to be doing well within the system. I was a well-performing student. I was the best-performing student throughout primary school, the middle school, and like the first year that I did in high school. And what that meant was that my family in my community had high expectations of me. They kind of expected me to succeed. They had high hopes, and what that meant, what that translates to in Moroccan imagination, is basically a stable government job as a doctoral engineer. So this was like the ceiling of their ambitions for me. And for the, for most of my life, or for most of my life, I would say I've appropriated those aspirations as my own. So for a long time, I wanted to be a doctor since I was 8. And that kind of changed. A turning point in my life happened in 2007 when I was accepted to an exchange program called Youth Exchange and Study, YES. So the program is funded by the U.S. Department of State, and the program was founded after the 2003 kind of 9/11 incident. And the idea was to kind of bridge the gap between the Muslim world and the U.S. through exchange. So I was placed with a really nice family in Pennsylvania for a year, and I went to high school there. Now this was this is a gap year for my schooling, so it was a time to pause and kind of reflect. What I consider a real turning point in my life happened a year later. Towards the end of my exchange year, I heard about a school that was about to be founded called the African Leadership Academy. The idea basically behind it was that they're going to build a boarding school in South Africa, a Pan-African school, get all the students from all around the continent, teach them a very different curriculum that's centered around African studies, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And the idea is that you can transform the continent by developing a generation of African leaders. So we have to start with education now because these other people are going to come back to build the continent. So I was very inspired by the mission. This school was like virtual by that point, like it didn't exist. So it was just online, and I saw it and I applied and was fortunate to be accepted for the inaugural class. And I just had to make that call to my parents. I know that the year ended and I'm supposed to go home, but I'm going to South Africa. So for the following 2 years, I was in Johannesburg, South Africa, boarding with like a group of about 100 wonderful students from all around the continent. Now this was a turning point in my life. So the theme of this symposium is entrepreneurship in the future of education. Now this was my opportunity to get a revolutionary education for me. So I came from the public school system, and here I was learning for the first time about the concept of entrepreneurship. I don't think I knew that word before, or even if I've heard of it, I've always associated it with, people have money with businesses, maybe they inherited it. I don't know, but it's not me. It's a career. I'm going to be a doctor, so that's not me. But the idea that entrepreneurship is a mindset, it's a way of thinking, actually. That anyone can be an entrepreneur, that's something that the African Leadership Academy gave me, and something that changed me completely because it's pushed me to find my own passions, and also it's helped me see problems that I always complained about as opportunities. So I think this is really the power of entrepreneurial education. It's like it's your ability, or the student's ability to see problems as opportunities. So you no longer see problems, you see opportunities everywhere. You turn problems into opportunities, and that's the change that happened to me. Now, at the end of my second year, towards the end of my second year, I was talking to my friend Hafsa, she was in Morocco, and she was going to school with me. And we sat there, we said, okay, so I'll get admitted to Middlebury College. I know I was coming to the US for maybe the following next 4 years. So we were wondering, what can we do now in Morocco that can bring about some positive change without having to wait all these years before we go back? What can we really do? And I said, okay, so we came from the public school system. We were fortunate enough to come. This education changed our lives in the way we see the world. Why can't we just go and share this with people with our peers back home? Simply. So basically, we came up with the idea of starting this project called Rabat Entrepreneurial Challenge. So it's very simple. It was a 1-week crash course of entrepreneurship for high school students. So it was in capital city Rabat, that's close to Rabat, and we basically got around 25 students, and they came every day. They went back home at night. Basically, we just trained them, provided lunch, and introduced them to the world of entrepreneurship. And the idea that we just wanted to inspire and share part of that experience that we had in 2 years and unpack it and kind of give it to them in like a 1-week crash course. So feedback was great, everyone loved it, parents also got involved. It was just a very positive experience. Now this was in summer 2010. In 2011, the so-called Arab Spring happened. And Morocco got its own share of uprisings. So basically, people went out, a lot of them are youth, and then the societal issues, but mainly youth and employment issue got magnified. It was in our face. Because the people who went out and set themselves on fire were university graduates, were young people who were supposed to be hopeful in building the future of the nation. These were people who were desperate. They got their university degrees, they thought they were going to get a job, but they didn't. And now, it was like a situation of desperation, and it was, on the brinks of violence, if we look at what was happening around our country. I want to kind of stop and actually analyze a little bit the situation in Morocco, because youth unemployment is an issue that's happening around the world right now, including the United States. But it's a bit maybe special in the Morocco case is that after independence, because the country didn't have a lot of kind of doctors, talents, kind of teachers, government started handing out jobs, get teachers, get doctors, because we needed them. And also because of the legacy of the French colonialism, civil service, even in France, still now is a big thing. So when these people go out and kind of protest for jobs, it's not about, kind of some stimulus package or like build business, it's about give us jobs. Like the government, you're a teacher in blah, blah, blah village, go teach and I'm gonna pay you every month. It's direct posts in the government. And the government does not have those jobs anymore because now we have so many university graduates. They can't provide jobs for all these people, yet they are not, the education system that the government gives them does not equip them for any alternative. So here I'm going to pause again and give you what our curriculum philosophy is, what we teach really in that Rabat Entrepreneurial Challenge, and what we teach even now. So our curriculum philosophy is based on this idea that entrepreneurship, the best spot for entrepreneurship is the sweet spot between passion and opportunity. So basically, passion is something internal. So it's what makes you tick, what makes you wake up in the morning, something that you really would love to do, even if no one pays you for it. And then there's opportunity. This is like a need that's external, something that you see outside of you that's needed. And then when you marry the two, that's when like the magic happens. And this is what our curriculum is based on it. Let's say, for example, you love to do X, you love to do X, you enjoy it every day, and then you realize that society needs X, and in fact society wants to pay you to do X. Isn't that wonderful? So the idea of like to marry your own passion with issues or opportunities around you is what the curriculum is based on. The reason I'm bringing this up now is because what happened in 2011 was basically this for us. So we had that passion for education, we had that passion for entrepreneurship, we just wanted to share that with youth. And then when we saw this, it was the opportunity side. This is the pressure from society, this was needed. So it's magnified the issue, and it gave more meaning to what we were doing. So this was for us that magic blending between our own passions and the opportunity in society. In 2012, my friend and I and the entire team, we got a Davis Peace Project, if you know about it, from Middlebury College. This is a $10,000 grant to go and do your own project, what you want to do. So our idea was basically to take that little 1-week crash course and turn it into a national boot camp that recruits kids from all over the country. Because originally, because of the limited resources, we only did it in the capital city, but we wanted kids from all over the place to come to our location and stay overnight because we wanted to maximize the program. So that's what the Davis grant helped us do. So we did that in 2012. We kind of formalized more our kind of program mission and vision. So our vision is to develop a generation of job creators and not job seekers. And how we do that, we do it by finding the entrepreneur in our participants through revolutionary training. So basically you get someone who never heard of it and you kind of try to convert them into this, this religion, if you call it, of entrepreneurship. You want to convert them. And what we do is through a 1-week boot camp of entrepreneurship, open to youth from all around the world. I'm going to use some pictures from the camp. This is, some statistics also. So this is from just the 2013. So we got 300 applications and we admitted around 12% of them. We ended up with 30 participants, 8 8 females and 22 males. And then we had 12 regions represented out of the 16 Moroccan regions. Some pictures also from the program. This was just a field trip that they had to do and kind of interview people to find the opportunities in the society. But basically, up to now, so this is 2012, and in 2013 we did it again. We found one of the biggest mining companies in the world that's based in Morocco. Really liked what we were doing, so they wanted to sponsor us and be long-term partners. So everything was going great. We got great feedback. Everyone was happy. We got national publicity, nationally and internationally. So everything looked great. But then over the summer, I kind of stopped and started thinking about certain questions that we never really raised. And this is what I'm bringing. This is really, the point of today's workshop. So, because I oversee the program usually overall, I don't always read the applications for admissions. But in 2013, I was in the admissions committee. I actually had to read the applications. So, I raised 2 questions. Question 1. So when I read the applications, I had this dilemma. So you would get this one application. That's really great. It's impressive. This person is so accomplished. They've done so much in their communities. They're eloquent as well. The application is just great. But then I wonder, is this the person who needs us the most? If I admit this person, what's my added value in their life? Like, would they make it without our program, or do they need our program to become entrepreneurs? On the other hand, you find another applicant who hasn't done really much. Maybe he didn't even express himself well in the application, but then you know that that's the person who actually needs it the most. So, but the trick is, this is the biggest bulk of the application. So when you get 300 applications, this is 200 applications, this is 100. So and we have spots only for 35, that's our capacity. So you need to select, but at the same time, are you ending up with the wrong target population perhaps? So this is the first question. The second question, so along the same lines, this is along the same question. So if you look at the Moroccan youth pyramid, this is the bottom of the pyramid. These are public school students like I was, people who live far from big cities, or where like culture and resources are, far from Casablanca and Rabat. These are students who are maybe economically disadvantaged. Maybe they're underperforming students, they're not being challenged. But these are the people who are most likely to end up unemployed. These are the people we see going out protesting, right? But these are the people who want to impact. But this is what we get through our application process. So we get maybe private school kids, academically bright students overall, private or public, active students, leaders in their communities. This is what we end up with. So this was something that we never thought about. And we never had a strategy that when we would sit, we never said what we would do. We just choose the best application. There was no strategy behind it. And then each one of us had that conflict in their mind. And I don't know what we ended up with at the end. So we didn't devise any strategy about that. So this was the first issue that happened. The second issue had to do with scale. So if you remember, our vision is to create a generation of job creators in Morocco. Yet we train 35 kids a year. I don't think at this rate we're going to get to a generation. It was an issue of impact as well and kind of increasing our reach. I felt that we shouldn't be satisfied or comfortable with the scale we're at right now if we really want to impact the entire Moroccan culture around entrepreneurship. So this was another question. How can we scale impact with the limited resources we have? Now, this is where theory of change comes in. So basically, the reason we were confused is because we did not have a theory of change. And theory of change basically is a tool that helps you articulate the process through which change happens. So sometimes you come up with a great idea, you see a problem in your community, and you're like, oh my God, I'm really passionate about this, let me come up with an idea to solve it. And then you come up with it, and you start working on it for months and for years. But then sometimes you have to kind of check yourself, is A connected to B? If you think A solves B, does it really do? What kind of assumptions are you making in between? And are all the preconditions kind of available to make B happen? So basically, theory of change is the way to break down that process and build the building blocks from A to B, so that you know exactly how you're impacting the change you say you make. It has a lot of questions in it, but the three main questions are the following. What are your goals? You need to kind of define your goals. Once you find what your vision is, where you want to get, then you need to devise strategies that will get you there. And this is the part that you have to break down a lot. But then 3 is the outcomes. What outcomes do you expect if what you actually achieve happens? And this third part is important in measuring success. This is where your success indicators come in. Because let's say, if you succeed, what are you going to see? How is it quantifiable? What is that thing that you're going to see to know that you've gotten there? So this is where your success indicators come in, and that's how you're going to always be. Like you do A, and then you see, X, then B happened. This is you're going to be measuring using X. I know I'm still speaking abstract in the air, but my hope is to use my own project to give life to the theory of change, so that you can internalize it. So this is one tool as well in theory of change. This is a theory of change map. So one way to do it, when you're as an entrepreneur or as someone who's like passionate about social change, you usually start with a dream. That's really what it starts with a vision. You're very passionate about this. You want to impact this. So this is a way to actually do that. Just start with that. It's backward mapping. It's called backward mapping. So start with the goal that you want to achieve, and start thinking about the preconditions that have to be there in order to impact this goal. And there are going to be many. It's almost like a supply chain. This needs to happen before, but for this to happen, this needs to happen, and that needs to happen, and that needs to happen, and that needs to happen. And your intervention is going to be somewhere in this map. Like maybe you're just intervening in one, maybe you're making sure that one of the preconditions is taking place. But it's good for you to see where you fit in the big picture and what impact are you really doing. Also, between each relationship is based on assumptions. Sometimes you make assumptions about things. Oh, if I do this, this will happen. Really, is it an unwarranted assumption? Maybe you stop and think about the assumptions you're making and see if you can back them up with research or with actual real-life experience or just faith. So this is a process. Now, I'm going to just put my own project on that map to give you some example. And this is not well developed, by the way. It's still a work in progress for us as well. But let's think about this. What we really care about, our really big vision, is we're worried about youth unemployment in Morocco, right? So our dream is, a Morocco where youth employ themselves. They don't have to go to the government. They don't have to protest. They can start their own enterprises and actually create jobs for other people. That's our goal. But then let's think about what it takes to get someone to employ themselves. I'm going to start there because it will make more sense. But you get someone out of the door. They never heard of entrepreneurship. They just want to be a doctor or an engineer. That's the ceiling of their ambition. First, you need to inspire them. You need to convert them into becoming an entrepreneur. Why don't you check this out? Maybe you should start thinking about this. It's exciting. Once you do that, then they get out of the door, and then maybe they come up with an idea. But coming up with an idea or writing a business plan, maybe it might require a mentor, like mentorship, someone to actually follow up with that. So maybe there needs to be a mentor here. Next, they need an office. They need someone to help them with the finances. They need a phone. Maybe they need an incubator at this point. After that, they're ready to kick off. They need money. So maybe investors come in there and funding interventions, microfinance. And then after they do that, not all the enterprises succeed. So maybe they need someone to help them sustain it. They need maybe further training, something to actually help the enterprise grow. And maybe once it's it's big and profitable, then they finally can employ themselves and employ others. You see? Now, if you look at this, you see how ridiculous the assumptions we were making. So this is our niche right here. This is where we operate. One of our goal is to inspire people, right? But our vision is this. So the whole time we were making the assumption that someone else is gonna do the rest, you know? Because we have 1 week training. We know that our kids get inspired because we see it in their eyes and their feedback and the way what they do afterwards. But all of this, we don't know if it's gonna happen or not. Now, is this bad? Well, not necessarily, because when you have limited resources, you can't do all of this. But at least theory of change helps you articulate that. So now we know that, so our assumptions are the government is going to create an enabling environment for enterprise to grow, which kind of see signs of. There are incubators, other people will help in between, but we're just going to focus on this intervention right here. Let's inspire people, change, starts with a mind shift, let's just focus on that and do that. Now, how does this, so this is good because it helps you clear things in your mind, but it's also good when it comes to measuring your success. So beforehand, because, before this theory of change thing, we were thinking, okay, so we want to create entrepreneurs. How do we measure our success? By the percentage of entrepreneurs that, get out of our program 20 years from now. So let's say 20 years from now, 0% of our kids become entrepreneurs. Does that say that we failed? I think before this map, yeah, we'll be very depressed and we'll say, yes, we failed because none of them became entrepreneurs. But now you see that your actual outcome or actual impact is here, right here. Because maybe the government is not helping with the regulations. Maybe other people are not intervening. But maybe you are actually impacting the change that you want. You are inspiring people. So maybe this is what the outcome you want to capture, and this is how you want to measure your success. So this is really hard because perception change is hard to capture, but we try to do it through survey, evaluations, to kind of follow up. It's a bit abstract, but basically this is what we need to really look at if we want to see if we're doing a good job or not. And this would be like a secondary measure of success. So this is something that's helpful. So now, this is where the exercise part comes in. I need your help. So the 2 questions that I have here, we came up with ideas or answers for them, but before I'm going to show you those answers, I want to see what you can come up with for these 2 questions. And the first is, who should our target population be? So the first question that I explained earlier. And the second is how to scale impact using the same resources. Now, to help you see how does this fit in the theory of change part, is basically you're helping me in this part, because when you say, so what do you want to do? We want to inspire who? So who are we trying to impact exactly? And in how is also what kind of activities we can do using the same resources that we have. So kind of maximizing our impact. So the hope is, we're going to do this in 15 minutes. I have cases for you that you can pass around. So, sorry, just to explain the exercise, I think we should take 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes to just read the case, and then get together with 2 other people next to you, and try to kind of brainstorm solutions for the problems that I'm giving you. Then, in the following 5 minutes, you just take to kind of formalize the recommendation you're going to give me, and then you can choose like one representative from your team to kind of present the recommendation.
Is your pen by any chance?
Pen?
Yeah. Okay, my neighbor does.
Which I don't know what you're saying.
No, I was wondering about a pen. But I'm good, thank you.
Also, you can ask more questions if you need.
The target population. guess an application. Focus more on what's performing and making she knows something it's not just
or whatever else. So I can see how, especially the inspired that is really valuable time.
So where we left,
Start, yeah.
the diverse.
Questions are from public school or
Yeah, let's say from the bottom
the
of
bottom?
the applicants. It can mean a lot of things.
Okay, so I'd say 200 applications are from the bottom and 100 are from the top. Maybe work with that ratio and for accepted students. So break it down to two pools and accept 33% of those 35 spots with the top students, and then 66% from the bottom. And then, so we're hoping that way the achievers and top students sort of influence the bottom students, and a good way for that would be to make little teams whenever possible and have teams of 3 or teams of 6 and have those ratios still play out. So those at the bottom can not only be influenced but also challenge themselves. Oh my God, he knows everything. Let me try to outdo him. And we realize that students from the bottom might come to this program with a little bit of a disadvantage. So maybe pre-camp, an extra day or 2 would be helpful to just prepare them for what to expect.
Okay, thank you. Next.
So we discussed a couple things with the first problem. Our question was who is applying. You said that there are some kids from the bottom, whether that's they're impoverished or because they go to public school or whatever. But is it mostly, who's hearing about it? Who's hearing about the camp? So we were thinking it might be good first to get more publicity out to try to bring in more people from across the country. You said that you had some national publicity, and that sounds like it's a step in the right direction. We feel that if you really expanded that influence, then you would get a greater variety of kids applying. One thing that we talked about was the idea that maybe you could expand the size of your camp. Of course, that would mean you need more funding, which
gets you to the second question.
yeah, which is not an automatic thing at all, obviously. But expanding the camp size would allow you to bring more diversity into the group. And then, just trying to let more kids know about it so that they can, apply. Because I'm sure that there are kids who go to public schools who are capable. And I think that that's what we want, the people who have the life experience to need this, but who also have the intelligence and the drive to go ahead and use your teaching the best. And then as far as trying to maximize your resources, Faith brought up a good point of encouraging kids to bring information home and really making that an emphasis and try to start projects in their hometown and teaching their friends about cooking. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we had, our first idea was the same as the first group. We also had another idea to have like 2 sections of your application like process where like if you had sort of done a project in your home community and you felt like you already sort of had a sense of entrepreneurship, you would apply to be sort of a featured camper who would like have a presentation about what they had done or like something along those lines, so that like there was a section for just people who wanted to learn and then a section for someone who wanted to like help teach others, or like they could also be assistants to the teachers, which could be helpful to the volunteers. And then, but we were also discussing that like it might not make so much of a difference who you accept, and that like in the long run it will like have an impact on a lot of different people regardless of who you choose, even if one might be inspired already, or like they'll have the backing of the camp to like feel that they really have the energy to go for it, and then the people who didn't have those opportunities at first would really get inspired. So we had those 2 ideas.
So your idea is that the first group mix.
Yeah, the 2/3, 1/3 ratio. We had the same. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, yeah, I'm very impressed by the recommendations. We thought about a lot, and also some of the solutions that you came up with. Actually, that's what we thought about, and you can actually give us some feedback after this. But these are the answers we came up with. So for the first question, so who should we target? Basically, we ended up saying that we're fine with whoever we're choosing right now. We're choosing the best applicants based on their application is fine, and it can actually help us impact our real target population, meaning the people at the bottom of the pyramid, if we use it, in a smart way. So how is that? They're going to impact the other people through 2 ways, which I think came up here. Number 1 is just by being a role model. So if you think about what people want to be, let's say like someone who's like not privileged, or like maybe the disadvantaged, or they go to public school, what do they look up to? What do they want to be? They look at what their role models are doing. We wanted to be like I started the story in the beginning. We wanted to be doctors and engineers because that's what well-performing students do. So everyone who's trying to study hard, who's trying to get there, is looking at the aspirations of the privilege, you could say. The privilege is the segment that actually sets the aspirations, that sets the standard, that says this is what success means. So if we can get those top role models and impact their choices, let's say you get these kids, they're bright, they're leaders in their communities, they're doing a lot of things, you come and you convince them to start considering entrepreneurship as a career path as opposed to getting a government job. If these people change their minds, what is that going to say to the rest? Like when these people who are leaders in the best in society are choosing this, maybe we should do the same too, because this is what success means. So that's one way it will happen, and this will happen without intervention. If we just keep doing whatever we're doing, our hope and our assumption is that if we convince them to take these choices, if we impact their choices, they're going to impact the choices of others just by the demonstration effect. People will look at them and be like, wow, this is what, my cousin who's so bright did, so this is what I should aspire to. That could happen. Second needs intervention, and this is also something that came up. These people, once we train them, why can't we also train them to train others? So that way that we're not, we're kind of maximizing. This goes a lot into the second question, maximizing the resources. You're giving, we're spending $20,000 to train 35 kids, but if you also train them to train others, then that can kind of increase your reach and increase your impact. So that gets us to like the second part. This is the same as the third. This is our theory of change, basically. Through training, we inspire the brightest students to become entrepreneurs. Then the outcomes, bright young students choosing the entrepreneurial path. This is what we assume they're going to choose that. And then they're going to spread the message. This is another assumption. And then once they do that, they're going to create a vibrant culture of entrepreneurship as an attractive career path. So this is the solution to issue 2. maximizing impact. So the way we hope to do it is through 2 points, maximize impact at 2 points. This is the admission process. So what we're working on right now is an online course. So one way to maximize impact with the limited resources right now is technology. Technology is cheap. Let's say we teach a course over the week. What if we tape it and put it online? How many people really watch that? And they're not, haven't spent any money on it. So our idea is to start an intro course that's like really simple, and we make it as part of the admission process. So originally, you get 300 applications, only 35 of them get the message. The rest never know what we're talking about, right? But if the application process involves going through this online course as like a preliminary step, that means 300 people get the message and then 35 get to the physical location, physical camp. That's one way. Then you select those 35, kids based on certain criteria, that these are like strong candidates. Then comes cascade training. So you train them on entrepreneurship, but you also train them on how to train others. And this is what we're working on right now is a toolkit, or like a trainer's guide. It's like so detailed. It's kind of, we give it to you at the end of the week, and like, okay, now if you want to go to your school back home or public school or anywhere and you want to kind of transmit this message, this is like a detailed guide of how to do it, a how-to guide on training, like activities to do and how much time to spend on each, things like that to help you. So this is what we're working on together. So this is basically what we came up with to our own issues. Do you have any feedback? Some of the stuff already came up, which is very impressive and helpful. But what do you think? Oh.
I think it's great. Yeah. And something a little note I wrote to myself was when you are choosing the top applicants, I would look for students who have demonstrated involvement with philanthropic work. Students who are, you can tell, are going to give back to their community, not just because the person has the highest grades, because that doesn't always mean that they're going to do anything better.
Yeah, just to clarify, actually, we don't consider academics. We never ask about grades, but it just that's what happens because being engaged in your community is usually correlated to being a bright student and all of that, but we don't consciously talk about academics.
I think this is a really, really great plan, and I think it takes into consideration the resources that you have and what you're trying to achieve. I was just wondering, during the application process, is there any online applications or paper applications that the applicant feels what they think about themselves, or is there any reflection that you get from surrounding your recommendations from teachers? Because
so far, because we haven't done this yet, it's just one simple application that asks you questions about something you've done in your community, maybe what you aspire to do, something just to engage your mind to see what you're thinking, if you have a vision for your community. So no peer, and there's no paper, it's all online.
I was just wondering if there is, because sometimes a teacher might be a person to see as a position, I've seen this person, maybe they're struggling, they didn't start anything yet, but they have the position, or they're curious, and maybe there's a recommendation.
What is the extent of internet access in Morocco? Is it pretty widespread, or?
Yeah, right now I would say it's widespread. Yeah, I would say that. I mean, it's good concern that you're bringing that up because, what if someone doesn't have internet and also...
Yeah, even here,
right?
If I'm not mistaken, Morocco has one of the best internet accesses and compared to the African continent.
It does. You know what, I think it's not, you're right. It's not an issue of access. Sometimes it's an issue of, when that student gets internet, the question is, what do they do with it?
Yeah.
So it's like, they do have internet. I know people have internet, but who's gonna go and look for a training? They watch YouTube or do something else with it. That's a whole other question. But I think there is. I see it now with mobile becoming cheap. People use it on their mobiles. I think, And also from the people we get in our application pool, not everyone you also get those people who are from remote areas. So you know that they got internet.
Yes. I think it's a good proposal, but I'm thinking if there are assumptions that if we impact the more privileged students, we will go back to impact the less privileged students, because I'm curious whether there is a gap between
This one and this one. You're very right. This is a huge assumption to make. And that's why we're actually debating whether we should make it a requirement. So that once you come to our program, you actually have to go and do a workshop, at least one workshop in your community. There's an issue also that my team is bringing up is that, okay, so once I've gone through the program, I have no incentive to like stick to my word anyways. So we're thinking of building an alumni support system where there are actually perks of being a good alum. So if you don't do that, you'll be on a blacklist and you're not going to get all of these other things that are for you. And if you're a good alum and you go and teach, then you get this and that, maybe internship opportunities or something like that. So we're still thinking about this area. But it's a really good question. Like, why would they do that? It's kind of extra work. Yeah, you're right. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.